Yes, thank you for joining us, especially on such short notice, being here. Just got to test because we're already on our time schedule. So head on, and can you tell a bit about you and Deliver and what you do?
Sure. So my name is Mike Gordon. I'm one of the co-founders and the CEO of Deliver. It's spelled with no vowels, so DLVR, but we pronounce it Deliver. And what we do is multi-CDN internet video measurement and optimization. Before Deliver, I was one of the founders and the chief strategy officer, pardon me, at Limelight Network. So I've been part of this CDN industry and the streaming industry for 20 plus years now.
A veteran, if you call it, right? Or dinosaur, how you want to call it.
I consider myself one of the OG CDN folks.
Very good. So, I mean, you've been in CDN and now multi-CDN for a long time. So if you look at the multi-CDN part specifically, what are typical challenges you run into running or making multi-CDN available in the first place, but also running multi-CDN? So what are the challenges that you typically bump into?
Sure. So, of course, the reason folks implement multi-CDN is partly to avoid outages, which only happen every year or two per CDN. But if you're using 3 or 4 CDNs, that could affect you once or twice a year. But as soon as they've implemented multi-CDN, the next step is to find a way to use multiple CDNs to improve user experience. You know, the research, the data on this is really clear. Even today, about 2/3 of users will report that they've experienced a buffering event over the last week. A third of them will say, I've experienced 2 or 3 or 4, and a fifth of them will say, I've experienced one over the last day. So buffering remains a problem for the simple reason that it interrupts the content experience. Just as the punchline is about to be delivered, or the goal is about to be scored, or the Michael Myers is about to stab Jamie Lee Curtis one more time, the video buffers, and it really disrupts the audience's viewing experience. And so once a streamer has implemented, a video streaming company has implemented multi-CDN, they will almost immediately start trying to use it to improve the quality of user experience. And that's when they begin to run into some real challenges. So, you know, there are challenges before you implement, while you're implementing, and after you implement. Before you implement, you have to provision multiple CDNs, deal with things like multiple shared secrets if you're using token-off, setting up origins for all the CDNs, keeping all those configurations in sync. And even if it's a small number of CDNs, 3 or 4, there's a lot of complexity to provisioning multiple CDNs. While you're using multiple CDNs, you've got to figure out how to measure user experience, how to feed back those measurements into your CDN selection decision-making process, and then figure out how to execute changing CDN decisions. And as Stefan was saying in the first presentation this morning, there's a real benefit to stability in how you configure CDNs. Volatility can be bad, but flexibility, particularly real-time flexibility, can be very beneficial if it helps you avoid buffering events. So we've got these contending objectives that we're trying to sort of play one off against the other, somehow factor it all into a decision and make that decision as fast as we can. And then, of course, after the fact, we have the challenge of understanding what happened and what results we achieved. And that really has to be applied to the full delivery stack. So to what extent, if there were problems, did they occur strictly in the ISP? Users on a mobile device, lots of other users join that same cell tower, and that affects the users who were already in flight in terms of their experience. Nothing any of us can do about that, maybe not even the mobile network can do about that. It's just in the nature of fluctuating crowds, right? What happened on the CDN? Is there anything we can do about that to improve user experience? And then what happened upstream in the workflow? Maybe there were some issues caused by slow ad decisioning or origin issues or connections between origins and CDNs. it's really difficult when you talk to most companies in internet video streaming to collect all that data, somehow correlate it, somehow make it useful in anything like a executable time frame, and apply that in a systematic way to improving user experience. So what we see happen really commonly is internet video companies adopt multiple CDNs. They get the benefit of avoiding outages because when an outage does happen, you can make a change pretty quickly, but they really struggle to utilize multiple CDNs systematically to improve user experience.
Good, perfect. Then a little bit more a side topic, which also relates to multi-CDN is in Europe, the first discussions are happening on regulation. I mentioned in my presentation as well a little bit, but the first discussions on regulation for even video delivery are happening because we're getting very dependent on video delivery through the internet. Very simple, and not even for commercial services, but also for public services.
Sure.
Do you have these kind of discussions in the US as well? Because you have a much better focus on what's happening in the US versus what we know here in Europe.
We're not really seeing a lot of that yet in the US. We have we have been following Europe when it comes to regulation in a lot of areas related to the internet. A great example of this is privacy. GDPR came into effect first. A couple of years later, California, which is one state in the United States, made some changes, and now we're seeing other states and the federal government begin to look at privacy regulation. So we're a little behind Europe, I think, in general. We haven't seen a lot of activity around, other than sort of ISP-focused net neutrality regulations. We haven't seen a lot of activity regulating how CDNs and cloud services interact with ISPs, and how do we make sure that we keep the playing field level and fair to all participants. It does seem likely that that will be coming at some point. I think, just again, to call back to Stefan's presentation, the level of technical complexity that ISPs deal with and that you can get into when you begin to systematically address the problem of multiple CDNs interacting with multiple CDNs, and how do we interconnect and then manage traffic in a way that is best for users. I don't know if the regulators are going to really have a lot of luck trying, really grappling with that level of complexity. But we'll see. It'll be interesting. I think we can all agree that regulators never met a problem they didn't think they had a solution for. So
I think that is irrespective of Europe or US. I mean,
irrespective of where you are in the world, they seem to find a way to think they've got the answer. Not that they don't, because sometimes they do. Where would we be without, sort of food safety, for example? Right?
Yeah, sure.
So there is an appropriate role for regulation, but I would caution everyone involved that the level of technical complexity here is going to make that challenging.
Yeah, exactly. Agree. Good. So knowing your background with Limelight, now Deliver, I've been in the CDN space for so long. If we look 5 years ahead, how will the CDN landscape look like?
Well, 5 years ahead, the first and most important thing we have to see is that users probably see no more buffering. At a minimum, they see a lot less buffering. And I know that buffering is not a 4 times per 20-minute television episode today like it was in 1999, but it still happens often. We all see it in our own experiences. And as we stream more and more video, we care more and more about the quality of that experience. And in fact, about half of users will tell researchers it's the #1 consideration when I'm making a decision in front of my connected TV, which video app am I going to watch some video on right now? So we have to fix that problem. I think the way the industry is going to fix it is in a couple of key ways. First of all, much more cooperation between ISPs and CDNs. And I think one of the stumbling blocks to that cooperation in the past has been different goals, different economic goals, different agendas, different technical capabilities, and we have to begin to either move past it or have a way of sort of sorting out, in Stephen's presentation, he talked about not wanting to use a lot of his backbone. Well, CDNs don't really care how much of the ISP's backbone they use at the end of the day. They care about how much load they can take and how much revenue they can generate. Not to be critical, but that's just in the nature of being a CDN. So, so we have to figure out ways to sort of bridge that gap. Deliver's done a lot of work on that, and you'll see some things from us over the upcoming time here that go directly to addressing that. And I think we have to move as an industry beyond the best effort approach that the CDN industry has really taken basically for the last 20 or 25 years to a guaranteed performance approach for at least the users that we have the ability to guarantee performance for. And if I can guarantee video quality for half the users, that's better than none. And the CDN industry grew up in the world of the web, where the only thing I could compare one website to was another. Internet video streaming is compared to pay television. And the pay television industry has done a great job of doing the two things that users care the most about when they sit down to watch some video. Start immediately. There isn't this 5 to 10 second pause after I select a program. When I change channels, I get the new channel right now, like within a second or less. And then the second thing the pay TV industry has done really well is not buffer. That concept doesn't even exist in pay television. So yeah, the satellite feed might go down once in a while. It's pretty rare. It does happen. We've all seen it happen, but gosh, the day in, day out question of whether the stream is going to freeze in the middle, the pay TV industry, whether we're talking cable or satellite or telco delivered pay TV, done a really, really good job of solving that. And that's what consumers now expect. Audiences expect that class of experience from their internet video experiences. So I think as an industry, if 5 years from now, we haven't at least approached that for the majority of users, I think there's going to be real issues, because we're going to be, instead of 20% of video being streamed on the internet versus watched on pay TV, we're going to double that, maybe triple that over the next 5 years. And we have to solve this problem as an industry.
Yeah, so we have to step it up, basically.
Yes, we do.
Very good.
Great, thanks, Mike. This is my last 20 years, by the way, not just of everybody who's watching this. I mean, look, I'm guilty as charged, right? But we have to recognize that audiences are at the front and center of what we do for a living, all of us, not just the people collecting 8 or 10 or 12 euros a month. We have to deliver on that promise. We have to do the job we've been asked to do.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mike.